Yes, sir. We are live and direct.
It's another one.
JPM Pacific.
When I say beard,
TGN
y'all say
99.
gone. Beard,
Gone.
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 Yeah. Investment bars. Let's start with the golden rule.
Buenas tardes, everybody. How you doing to another episode of Brown Wealth Radio? It's your boy Rix, along with Rennie in studio, and we got Doger on the road, and we got this young man, young buck-looking kid over here.
This young stud.
It looks like he sounds like Jesse, laughs like Jesse. It looks like it's Jesse, man. But alas, everybody, I am sorry. We are not going to have the one-man show that I was so ready to have. I was about to get my Cesar Leo on, but no, it's so good to see everybody. How you guys doing on this show called On the Road Again, man? And, you know, just how's life been treating you guys? I know you guys are doing a lot of moving and shaking. So how you guys been?
Good, man. Good. You know, we had this conversation not too long ago where Renee was like, yo, I don't even know what Jesse looks like without a beard. So I said, you know what? Let me give the world a treat so they can see what this face looks like without all the hair.
Amongst us four, I might be the only one that knew what you look like without a beard.
Definitely.
They had.
I'm keeping mine a secret
That's a
nowadays,
fact.
so it's
It's a
all good,
secret.
man.
The good thing is that my daughters didn't wild out. Like, they looked at me, like they tilted their head and they were like, oh, that is daddy. Okay.
All
They didn't
right,
scream,
all right.
so we
That's
were
most
solid.
important right there.
Yeah. Doger, where you at right now, man? You look like
Oh.
you're hunkered away.
Hey, yo, can you take the overlay off? Because I can't see Doger's beautiful face.
Yeah, man. I
Oh.
got
Go ahead, Doger. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Keep.
I'm up north doing some training for work, man.
Oh, we're up north. Where up north are you?
Yeah.
I'm actually in Oakland.
Oh, are you gonna see
Oh.
Big Bro? Are you gonna see Big Bro or not?
That's the plan tomorrow. If he's not too busy for work.
all right.
Oh,
He's a
All
busy-
right, all right.
Rick's over there running his mouth.
Yeah, I already know you're having a good time. What about you, Rennie, man? You've been back and forth everywhere, dude. How's it going?
I'm everywhere. I'm great.
Look at that smile. Look at that Kool-Aid smile
Yeah.
right there.
I don't know why you guys ain't talking about the elephant in the room. My man got shades on and it's
Right.
dark outside. Like, he came with a message to prove
Hey.
today.
He's
He
over here.
got his tennis shades on.
I
Sunny
thought we were
place,
gonna
shady
get wilding
people.
out Rennie again, man.
You
I thought
might.
Rennie was gonna be on, you know.
It's early, bro. Who knows what you might get? Shit.
But you guys already know we are live and direct. So Jesse, do your thing, my boy.
Dímelo,
Woo.
mi gente. Ya tú sabes, people. It is Brown Wealth Radio, episode number 26. And as Rick said, this is On the Road Again, because that's what we do. When we making moves, sometimes those moves got to be on the road. But as you can see, we still here live and direct for you guys. We got a super dope show lined up for you today, guys. Rennie did a lot of scouring for news on the 411. So I think the last story we're going to cover today might throw you for a little bit of a loop.
Yep.
We got some earnings we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the Tesla competitor,
Uh-oh.
NIO. And we're going to talk about another meme stock, man. We're going to talk about GameStop. So excited to see how they did for their earnings. And backed by popular demand, we've got yesterday's price is not today's price. And Rich is going to be bringing a lot of heat there.
Yes, sir.
Chris, for some reason, has decided to keep his gem of the day today a complete secret that we don't even know what it is. So you know this shit is going to be fire. Right?
By the way, Chris,
So-
what did you think of my my Credit Chris impersonation last week, man? What'd you think of it?
I think you did well. You hit the right points. You obviously delivered it better than I can. So I think you did good.
Did I bring the sexy though?
Now that you hear him
said
and you
did.
hear you, nah, bro, it's not close. But nevertheless, folks, we also got that credit corner. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. And you know what? A lot of people on the team have been making some moves. So today we're going to talk about Brown Wealth Matters and salaries and some of the interesting things that are happening in California for some of y'all that might be applying for new jobs. So I think this will be an interesting thing to do. But before we do anything else, let's see how my man Rix brings it home today. What kind of
Let's do it.
disclaimer we getting? We getting the speedy? We getting the sexy? What are we getting?
I'm gonna give y'all the fast rapid fire. So here we go, and that is that our Content is intended to be used and must be used for educational and informational purposes only. It is very important to do your own research, aka do your homework for banking and investment, and it should be based on your own personal circumstances. Investing has inherent risk, and past performance does not guarantee future results. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with or independently research and verify any information that you wish to rely upon with the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise.
Caliente, caliente.
Ciao.
Yeah, yeah.
I would have given you a horn, but I'm not at the mixer today, bro.
It's all right, but we're gonna do this. We're gonna just keep it moving and hit them with the 411, huh?
Hey, what's the 411, hon?
What's the 411?
I got it going on,
Hey, yo, I
hon.
gotta go.
What's going on in the news, Rennie?
We got some you know, it's like a dramatic thriller type of news this week, man. All kinds of crazy stuff going on in the world. So first off, Lehman event looms for Europe as energy companies face 1.5 trillion in margin calls. European energy companies are facing margin calls of a total of 1.5 trillion in the derivatives market, aka options and futures, and many would need policy support to cover them amid wild swings and skyrocketing gas and power prices, an executive at Norway's energy major Equinor told Bloomberg on Tuesday. According to Hage Hagan, Equinor's senior vice president for gas and power, the 1.5 trillion estimate is even conservative. Liquidity at energy firms is drying up as many companies have started to struggle to meet their margin calls on the energy derivatives market. If the companies need to put up that much money, that means liquidity in the market dries up, and this is not good for this part of the gas markets. Some countries in the EU have already decided to set up funds to avoid a collapse of their energy derivatives markets. Finland and Sweden put out plans this weekend to support their energy companies trading in the electricity derivatives market, looking to avoid a Lehman Brothers event in their respective energy industries and financial systems. This has the ingredients for a kind of Lehman Brothers of energy industry, Finland's Minister of Economic Affairs, Mika Lintilä, said on Sunday, as carried by Reuters, commenting on the energy crisis in Europe. So this is like, I mean, this is like not small news.
No, it's a big deal.
Yeah, like before you get carried away on like the derivatives, like there are futures for everything from gold, wheat, you know, basically, you know, anything you can harvest, there's derivatives for it too, right? Now, with that said, is there, you know, probably some speculation and some gambling and some fun that went into that 1.5 trillion? Yeah, of course there probably is. But I think the bigger issue here is like, we're not talking about, you know, things that don't affect the everyday person. We're talking about energy. We're talking about gas and electricity, and we're talking about kind of Europe as a whole. So basically, what this boils down to is I believe people in Europe could potentially see their energy costs like triple or quadruple over the next year. So imagine if your energy costs today were doing that much, like what would that do for you? Like that is a basic necessity to survive. What do you guys think?
Oh, I would be not cooking and not putting on the AC and not putting on the heat because I ain't paying those prices. But I think a lot of think about like how we're getting impacted by inflation at the grocery store, right? Like we're spending 30 to 40% now more getting food. Who even 1.5 trillion? Like I don't even know how much, you know, 4 times more than what you're paying for energy. Dude, that's insane.
Yeah, it's and I mean, obviously it's a basic necessity for people. You know, you have to have energy just to live your life. I mean, everybody is, you know, using electricity, whether it's for their phones, whether it's for their lights, whether it's for their, like you said, their utility, all their utilities. So it's really unfortunate what's going on. And obviously there's a lot of things going on in the world that are causing all of this, but yeah, it's just a ton of money and a ton of inflation, man. It's just insane.
Yeah. And
how much is like the Russia situation? Like I know over the weekend, they like officially turned off like that pipeline, right? That comes from Russia for natural gas into the EU. So I'm assuming that's what's driving a lot of this, right?
Yeah, it's killing the EU. I mean, there's a woman that owns a bakery whose electricity bill went up from like $12,000 a year to like $48,000 a year. Like she's not gonna be able to stay in business. She's questioning whether or not she should stay open. You know, it's a bakery coffee shop. Yeah. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, and like Matt said, shout out to all the solar goats, but no, I mean, real talk, like this is something that we all have to understand. Like this, if this can happen in the EU, like don't think that it can't happen here one day.
Yeah.
So I think like, you know, it's just something to think about in terms of when you're thinking of like what the economic conditions are around the world. You know, obviously there's third world countries that like, you know, live with those risks all the time. And this is not to like take anything away from that, because that's obviously a tough situation. But, you know, the EU, we're not talking about, you know, a little country that no one's heard of. We're talking about, you know, one of the biggest I don't know what you would call it. What's the
I guess
EU technically?
It's
I
a
mean,
it's a continent. I mean, it's just a band of nations that are all together working under the same kind of policies and stuff.
Well, moving on to another crazy one. So, Bed Bath & Beyond named an interim CFO after the death of Gustavo Arnal. So, first off, in case you didn't know, we've talked about Bed Bath & Beyond on the podcast. We've put some posts up. We've talked about it, and over the last few weeks, it had one of the biggest roller coaster rides. I have no idea where it is now, but I know it went from like 5 to 30 down to $10. Well, check this out. So, struggling home goods retailer Bed Bath & Beyond Incorporated on Tuesday named an interim executive to lead its finances, a move aimed at reassuring investors after the death of Chief Financial Officer Gustavo Arnal. So it goes on to name, that Laura Crossan, I believe is her name, is going to take over as an acting basis before they find the final person. But I think ultimately what you got to know is that Mr. Arnal, who was a previous CFO, he became their CFO in the spring of 2020. So right before this whole meme stock thing went, he jumped from a New York building on Friday, 2 days after he had briefed investors on the retailer's plans to secure new financing, cut jobs, and close about a fifth of his stores. And his death adds to the company's leadership gap following the ouster of former chief executive Mark Tridon in late June and the departure of other senior executives. It also came out in the news that, he's most likely going to be found that he was busy with some insider trading. I'm not surprised by that. And I think it's another one where I think almost everyone here, we've all made some coin off of, some meme stock trades, right? We get that there's a trading component that you can potentially make some money on it, but these are the kinds of things that are fueling a lot of that momentum that's happening, right? Like GameStop doesn't go from 5 to 30 back down to whatever it's at without some crazy stuff happening, up in in terms of the decision makers. I think the important part to take away from this is that if you're really backing a company that you really understand has no chance at really making it, you have to understand that the people up top, aka the CFO who just committed suicide, is selling when you are talking about holding on for dear life. So I just want to make that point because I think this is one that really brought it to life for me.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because that is really the danger of investing. And when you hear these tips on these these meme stocks and saying oh, I'm gonna get rich quick, that this is the type of risk that you end up taking, and this potentially can mess you up, the retail investor, mess them up for a very, very long time. And it's really hard to recover when you get caught holding the bag on these type of things. So,
well, I think the important thing to identify there is that what they were doing is not investing. That's gambling. When you're playing these meme stocks, bro, you're not investing. That's not what we mean when we talk about investing on this show. They are straight up gambling. How can I flip 100 into 1,000, 1,000 into 10, 10 into 100? And they think that these meme stocks are the way to do it on. And clearly the CFO even got caught up in this shit because let me not assume, but I would assume that you don't take your life for something trivial, right? You jump off the Jenga building because you're not going to be able to cover all the shit you gambled with and the repercussions that come with that. So, it's really unfortunate, for somebody lost their life because of money.
Yep. Well,
what part does Cohen play in this? What do you think about his involvement?
I mean, first off, right? You can't just point the finger. Not that you're doing that, obviously, but I think Cohen, obviously, is very influential here. Now, here in this particular situation, this guy, it sounds like, again, nothing has been proven, but from what I'm reading, there's a lot of speculation that he was involved in some insider trading. And I think ultimately he's not going to be able to come to terms with living through that, right? Because, he's going to get caught doing that. It seems like he took advantage of the fact that Cohen, obviously divested and, he bought it. Who knows? Maybe they were talking in the background. I don't want to speculate too much, but to your point, I just don't want to wash, him of it. But I think as far as the actual meme stock investors go, I think Cohen has almost everything to do with it and he can't wash his hands of it either. So anyway, let's keep it going because I got one more story. And honestly, I really like the stories this week. So we got one more.
So this one's going to be crazier than the one we just heard?
Yeah, man.
All right. It's gonna be a
we're going crazy today. That's why
a Florida woman touted as Mother Teresa ran a $196 million Ponzi scheme, Feds say. He said she worked miracles, not for charity, but for profit. Johanna Garcia connected investors with companies that needed short-term financing, promising robust returns on their money. But federal prosecutors say it wasn't a miracle. It was a lucrative Ponzi scheme. The Florida woman is accused of perpetuating a $196 million fraud through MJ Capital Funding, LLC, the company she started in the Fort Lauderdale area. Her business took in that large amount of money from more than 15,400 investors in just over a year, from June 2020 to August 2021, federal investors say. Her company promised to use the money to make MCA loans to businesses it carefully vetted. To prospective investors, it portrayed the process of purchasing future receivables, guaranteeing them a share of the recipient's business income for months to come. In reality, MJ Capital used new investors' funds to make millions of dollars in payments to satisfy existing investors and fuel a Ponzi scheme, according to the SEC. In addition, the agency says the company's insiders spent millions of dollars on items such as travel, luxury goods, and clothing. The SEC also alleges that MJ Capital used unlicensed brokers and sell agents to sell unregistered securities. Supporting the scheme, the authorities allege, was Pavel Reese, 29, an MJ Capital board member whose sales team of some 70 agents allegedly reeled in at least $46 million from more than 5,100 investors. Reese reaped large rewards from his work, allegedly taking in $292,000 in commissions, but he also diverted some $7.7 million directly into his personal accounts, or the ones he controlled, according to the SEC. It says he used some of the money to purchase crypto assets and a luxury something. I lost it there.
Jesus.
Anyway, I'm gonna stop it right there because I know it's a long article, but it's just wild. Like, I think one thing, I'm just gonna call it out for what it is. Like, not that it shouldn't matter too much, but I hate the fact that I'm reading all these like Latino last names when we're talking.
Yes,
Yeah.
you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Bro. That was the first thing that popped in my mind. I was like, fuck, they gotta be brown like us, man.
Yeah, man, because like, I mean, at the end of the day,
Disappointing.
bad is bad, good is good, but like shit, like I feel like these are the kinds of stories that have always led to distrust, in our community, right? Like these
100%.
these Ponzi schemes, you know what I mean? Pyramid schemes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you see these
MLM
these
scheme.
pyramid schemes
MLM.
all shapes and forms, and that's really unfortunate because they always end up duping, obviously, just the regular common man, and that's just at the end of the day, that's like the worst thing.
Hey, do
that
you know how to
people do.
spot somebody who's running a pyramid scheme?
I don't know. You tell me. It's probably a good one.
They tell you.
They
it's
tell you
not
right
a
away.
It's not a
It's
pyramid.
not a pyramid scheme. One of the first things they tell you.
Yeah, but hey, but just one other thing I wanted to mention, like the craziest thing, I read through this and I like did some research. If I didn't find it, I apologize, but like they didn't get any penalties, bro. What I was reading on here was I think that they just have they came to some kind of settlement with the SEC. So I don't think that they're gonna get in any like jail time, at least as of the last time I learned of it. So, on top of that, like you're not even getting held accountable. But I just think, man,
Yeah.
like if you're about
It's just messed up to all the people that they sold the dream to.
Yeah, man.
And I'm sure there was a lot of brown people involved in that. You think you trust people that look like you.
I think the thought of saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna invest some money and get it back based on profits over time," like you're like, "Yeah, that's a good long play." But then at the end of the day, again, you're caught holding the bag. But as always, when you hear and read the news,
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
all right. But let's keep it moving because we already know we need some dollars.
I need a dollar, that's what I need.
Hey.
All right, my boys.
Dollar, that's what I need.
So we had ourselves a day, and as much as we were enjoying them wine glasses, we gotta bring it back because your boy's making some tortillas. Yeah, we got some maíz today, my man. The S&P 500 71 points to 3,979. The Nasdaq went up 246 points to 11,791, and the Dow Jones went up 435 points to 31,581 points. So we had a pretty good day. Obviously, these numbers are still lower than they were last week, but obviously this came about because I believe last Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday were just really bad, man. So it seemed like the economy was like, whoo.
I think it was a little bit of an oversold bounce, maybe some short-term
Yeah.
relief, get out while you can. It'll be back before you know
That's
it.
where. But as always, if you're just tuning in, you are listening to Brown Wealth Radio here on TGN Latinx and the Good News Radio Network. And if you're joining us on YouTube on TGN Latinx or the Brown Skin Investors YouTube feed, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to keep this moving. And we're going to move on to some earnings now.
Me llueve. Cero.
What do we got? What do we got today?
Well, like I said, man, we're gonna talk about NIO, NIO, dollar sign, NIO to be specific. So NIO is a Chinese EV company, and this is what they reported. and I'm very specific about how I'm saying it. This is what they said. They reported.
Got it.
Expected revenue of 9.77 billion, actual revenue of 10.29 billion. So according to them, they beat expectations by 5%. That's a nice job.
Can I just do this the whole time you're talking today?
Yeah, exactly. Now, their expected earnings per share, they were forecasted or expected to be at a -$1.22. They came in at a -$1.34. So they missed that projection by about 10%. So some of the key things that are important to know about NIO is they reported a sales growth of 21.8%, and they have a 14% increase in vehicle deliveries year over year. So that means so far this year, they've delivered 25,000 units or 25,000 vehicles. Some interesting stuff with NIO, they have roughly $8.1 billion in cash and cash equivalents on hand. And that's after experiencing losses of operations upwards of 424 million. Their margins, right? So their margins or their profits, they contracted by 13%. The interesting part about NIO really comes down to how it's traded. When you look at, it's currently at $17.48, up 2.2% on the day. So whatever they reported clearly went pretty well with the market. But that's a far cry from the $44.27 that it was trading at before. It's down 54% as of a year ago today. However, we always tell you to zoom out. They are up 76% over the since it's the 5-year chart, but they IPO'd I think in 2018.
Yeah.
So interesting to see that with NIO. Now the caveat here, and why I'm being very specific about the fact that they reported, like these financials that they're reporting are unaudited. So if you guys remember, we mentioned briefly Luckin Coffee throughout this podcast on previous episodes. And what happened there is that they were counting funny money. They were telling everybody that this is what they were making. And really, they were just moving money from one pot to the other. And that stock went, obviously that company came crashing down. So I say that to say, if you're going to be investing in non-American companies, just make sure you're doing your due diligence. I'm not here to say whether or not NIO is a good investment, but I personally am not touching it with a 10-foot pole. How about you guys?
Yeah, I used to be a big NIO bull, and then I think it was like back in late December, early January, I noticed it was trading in the same pennant that Tesla was in before. And I think I told you guys, like, hey, big move. At the time, I thought it was up, but as soon as it broke out of that pennant, I actually divested, which hurt me because it was one of my longest term holdings. But like, I think my average was, I don't know, probably like around $15-16. So when I got out, I want to say I was like at 38, and I had sold quite a bit. So that one treated me well. But what I would say is, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's too many question marks around its financials. There's too many question marks. Like if you're not, maybe if I was in China, I'd feel better. But it's a trader stock is what it comes down to. It's a trader stock now.
And it just seems obviously when you're not getting audited, you're able to kind of find the money where you want it and have the money that you may not necessarily have. Like you're talking about how much they lost and how much they have on hand. They have on hand like what 8.1 billion, and they lost 423 million. So it's like, well, where's this money coming from, and how do you still have so many kind of thing after, you know, revenue and margins are going down? So yeah, it's kind of tricky, and even if you understand fundamentals, if they're not being audited, it doesn't really do you much good. So
I mean, what's going on with the Chinese housing market is just another example.
Yes.
You can't trust it. I mean, well, we can't. We don't see the ins and outs of everything that they're doing. So in my opinion, I'd rather stay away.
Yeah,
no doubt.
For sure.
Cool. Well, the second company we're going to talk about today, GameStop, or $GME. So here's the kicker. I can't tell you whether or not they beat expectations because there's not enough analysts that follow this damn company. So if that don't tell you that this is a meme stock, I don't know what will.
Mm-hmm.
Actual financial analysts don't even bother checking on this company to give out estimates. So, but here's what I can tell you. For the second quarter, sales dropped to 1.14 billion from 1.18 billion a year ago. Losses, well, they're coming hot and heavy. It lost 108.7 million or negative 36 cents earnings per share, which is down even more from the 61 million that they were or minus 21 cents at this time a year ago. So not looking good for GameStop. Now, some other things to note that are very important when it comes to GameStop. They haven't provided forward outlook or projections since the pandemic started. And with their recent earnings, they also didn't give any forward guidance. So I don't know, when I'm looking at fundamentals, when I'm looking at organizations, and I'm looking at earnings, their forward guidance is what kind of gives you the foundation for what to expect for the next quarter, for the next year. Now, there's no hard and steady rule saying that they have to do that, but we covered last week all these other companies who were saying, oh yeah, hold my beer. You thought I was going to do this. I mean, I'm actually going to raise my guidance. So think about the comparison and type of organization or faith that you can have in a company who's challenging what the expectation is versus one that doesn't even want to put one out. Mm-hmm. So some other stuff. Inventory has shot up from $596 million worth of inventory on hand to $734 million worth of inventory on hand today. Does anybody fucking shop at GameStop, guys?
I mean, I'm sure people do.
I'm washed, bro. I'm old and I'm washed. I know I look young, but I don't play video games, so I don't know.
No, but nobody. Only
everything is downloaded now, ain't it?
You can download it for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. The real dedicated people, they still go for the experience, I guess you could say. But that's a very small percentage, in my opinion.
All right. So I'm not the guy that just likes to give you nothing but bad news. So let me give you some good news before we head into these commercial breaks, because I know I'm cutting it close.
Yeah, we got 40 seconds. You're good. You're good.
All right. So silver lining, they reduced their expenses by 14%. So that's good. They're controlling something. And the really cool thing is they are partnering with FTX, which is a cryptocurrency exchange. And they're not launching an NFT marketplace that's in beta version. So if you guys want to check it out, you can go online and actually look at it.
Let all that shit run it up to like 28 and 29 and then short the fuck out of it.
There you go.
Yep. All right. Well, we got a little bit more coming up, and we got some great news coming up, some more information coming up. So make sure you stay tuned to Brown Wealth Radio here on TGN Latinx and the Good News Radio Network. A little bit more coming up, and we got some great news coming up, some more information coming up. To Brown Wealth Radio here on TGN Latinx and the Good News Radio.
Hey, what's up, business owners? Are you looking to take your business a step forward? Are you looking for more people to know what you have to offer? You are in luck. The Good News Radio has a special deal for you right now. You can get a commercial slot 4 times a day, every day for a month. If you are interested, email contact@tgnradio.net for more information.
Hey, my name is Jasmine Sweets, and I'm so excited to be bringing you the Birthday Side from TV Vibes with Vibes and R&B. Playing the old school between. I'm coming to you this summer. Stay tuned.
What's up, friends? It's Iron Friends. We're here at the podcast in LA. It was so fun. We came to rep the IE. I think we did a pretty good job. So shout out to the podcast for having us. Shout out to TGN. You guys should definitely check them out. You should check me out. LV Gomez.
Y'all can find me at I Know Caesar on IG. You can find me at airbear_IE on IG.
And you guys can find the podcast at Iron Friends on every social media network except for OnlyFans. That's coming soon. So stay tuned. So follow us and follow TGN Podcast Pit. Have a good day, guys.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Caesar Leo. Caesar Leo knows it all. Check me out every Tuesday at 1 p.m. right here on TGN Latinx, the authority podcast. Let's go, baby. And what? Fool, you don't like it? So what?
It's back, Jax. Have you heard? It's back.
Michael, what are you talking about? What's back?
The Podcast Pit. It is returning Monday, May 23rd. Brand new venue.
Oh my God, the Podcast Pit is back. Exciting. Where's it at?
It's going to be at Jax's Daily at 7:30 p.m.
I know where that's at. That's at 11168 Washington Boulevard in Culver City.
So, Jax, will I see you there?
Oh, you know it, baby.
Hey, Jackie, what's wrong?
I'm over here running around trying to tell everybody about the Podcast Pit.
What's the Podcast Pit?
I'm glad you asked. The Podcast Pit is an event where you will find some of your favorite podcasts performing in front of a live audience.
Will there be food and drinks there?
Of course there will be. It's at Joxer Dailies in Culver City. They have a full bar and a full menu.
Hey, I may need to tell people about this as well.
Yes, come with me. Let's tell them. The Podcast Pit is coming. The Podcast
Pit is coming.
Are you happy with your life, money, career, or relationships? Most people are frustrated with how life is evolving around them. What if you could change one thing in a different direction? Would you want the insight? How could you transform your life with Intuitive?
That looks like that cup that was.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Brown Wealth Radio. Our boy Jesse just went on a hiatus over here to get himself a cup. But as always, you're listening to Brown Wealth Radio here on TGN Latinx and the Good News Radio Network. It's your boy Rix along with Shady Rennie over here in studio. We got Jesse and Chris on the road. And as always, we're going to keep posting some great information on Instagram. So make sure you follow at the Brown Scam Investors, where you could use the link in our bio to purchase our Brown Wealth Matters stock market course and Brown Wealth Matters merch and much, much more. Earlier before the break, we were speaking a little bit to the news and some crazy stuff that's been going on with like Ponzi schemes and you know, CFOs killing themselves, unfortunately, and some good earnings information on GameStop and NEO. But we haven't done this in a while, so I'm excited to do this, and I'm excited to bring this back. But we're going to be talking about what?
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
What?
Joey Crack.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Hey, real quick, did his book come out already yet?
Did it? I'm not sure.
It's certified.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it is certified. Are you going to look that up or what?
100.
The Book of Joe? Did it come out?
Nah, November.
Okay, so it's coming out in November. But we've had a lot of different conversations about inflation and prices and all this stuff throughout the different shows, and we weren't necessarily doing it on yesterday's price, not today's price. But I wanted to speak to the inflation numbers and what's been going on in the economy, because on September 13th, which I believe is Tuesday, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics is going to come out with the Consumer Price Index, as we call it, the CPI, for the month of August. And
Wednesday, I think. Isn't that, it's usually a Wednesday. Is that the date? Or
well, the 13th is the 13th is a Tuesday. Yeah, so
we'll see. It'll be interesting though.
But what's crazy is that Forbes has been speaking to whatever the upcoming CPI report says. It's going to remain likely that the Fed's going to raise interest rates by potentially 50 to 75 BPS at their next meeting. And although July's data was broadly encouraging, falling energy prices led to the lowest month-to-month inflation reading since the current U.S. inflation surge. And although inflation over the last couple of months has been month-to-month, that is good news. But obviously, we're going to speak to a little bit right now about why it has been seeming good month-to-month and what's really going on. And so we have our food. Our food prices, obviously, we've been seeing going to the grocery store and going out, that they've still been going. But the feds want to see some deceleration month to month, because over the year, the prices have been going up 1% month over month. So obviously, you know, if it keeps going up 1% month over month, that's going to be a 12% increase in just 1 year. And that's pretty crazy.
It's actually more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Because 1% added to 1% that was already at. Yeah. So that compound interest is going to be crazy. And the dramatic rise in food costs is perhaps the biggest concerns that the Fed can point to at the moment, because that hasn't been changing. And shelter costs, which is obviously, you know, where people live, have been rising more slowly, but it's still faster than what the Fed's like. And that's because 1% going up in shelter is a lot more money than 1% going up in your grocery bill. So just understand that. And that is really what matters to the Feds, because shelter cost is the largest single category when you weigh in the CPI index. And obviously that just goes to the amount of money. One thing that's helped this month over month and what they're calling deceleration has been the gas prices, because they've been falling sharply over the month of August based on EIA data, which is why the CPA data may show, you know, a little bit more subdued numbers month to month. So on September 13th, we may see a more reassuring headline about inflation. However, the Feds and the financial markets will be looking beyond that in order to be able to assess trends and components like food and housing. So if those are still rising sharply, then the Feds may be hesitant to dial back on the interest rate hikes, despite how good the month-to-month numbers of the CPI appear. So based on what you guys have been seeing and been reading, what do you guys think these numbers or this CPI report is going to entail?
I think go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think it's going to be 0.75 again. I don't see how they can't. Like yeah, sure, energy prices are coming down. You guys saw the story where I was telling Renee, like, oh, look, it's under $4, it's under $5, right?
Yep.
He don't care. He drive an EV, but, you know, I wanted to let him know that gas is under $5, damn it. But it's energy, but everything else is still going up. Like, I just read an article, I think it was a day or two ago, that said, like, so June, New York City broke records for how much the rent was. July, they broke the June record. August, they broke the July record. It's gonna keep happening. Like if you're saying that they're waiting for housing or shelter costs to come down,
or even quote unquote help decelerate it. So yeah, and thank you for the comments. Just so you guys know, the new dude on the top right is actually Jesse. You know, this young man that we found, he looks just like Jesse, talks like Jesse, so we brought him on, and he's pretty knowledgeable as well. But what were you gonna say, Dobra?
People want to see what they just saw, right? They want to see the rates where they were. People are forgetting those are historically low rates.
Yeah,
it's in order to really impact inflation, they got to stick with their guns, what their plan was, and that was continue to raise the rates in increments. You know what I mean? And I don't even think it's going to be a 0.5. I think it's going to be a 0.75. If you're going to do it, rip the damn Band-Aid off and make it happen.
Well, so yes. Powell, the Fed chair, spoke last Friday. It was referred to as the Jackson Hole speech, and he basically caused a very big market sell-off. Now, the market and the economy are not the same thing, right? But I think you have to also follow the market. The economy usually trails the market, right? So the market sold off because basically investors said, crap, they're serious about this, right? So when you think about the August reading, it did come in below the July reading. But it's not like it went to 2%. It went from 9 to 8%, something like that. The numbers are still crazy.
Yeah.
So when you take that into account, yes, what Powell said on Friday. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. But what Powell said on Friday was that he is going to remain committed to raising these hikes until inflation gets back under 2%. Now, could it get to 2% in 3 or 4 months? It maybe actually could. It would actually. A stock market crash would actually cause that to probably happen. That would be probably the best way for it to get to 2% quickly. More than likely, that's not the way it's going to happen. So it'll be a slow fall. Now, Powell speaks tomorrow. So I don't know if I believe he's on a panel, but I think at some point that question will come up. But you also have to think about a lot of the other things that other members of the Fed have said since. And a lot of them, for example, there was one, I forgot which one it was, who said that he was happy about the sell-off on Friday because he finally said that people are getting it. So everybody's waiting for that pivot, right? Whether it's stock market investors, whether it's people who hope that rates just come back down. But if the Fed is to be believed, they have to really hold those rates down. Now that's the thing that's a little tougher about this particular economic cycle is that they've never raised hikes as the economy is contracting. It's always been the other way around. So that double whammy could make things really tough. But if Powell is to be believed, he said on Friday that if it meant that unemployment would potentially grow, if it meant that the market would crash, he said that that's just something that has to happen because it's a necessary kind of side effect. So, we'll see.
Shout out to Wifey for being on the comments. Thank you so much for joining us. But I do have a question for both of you. Why, in essence, are raising rates? Why does that help inflation? I'm still kind of
it reduces the supply of money.
So think about it this way: like you're in the market right now for a house.
Yeah.
Right. Or sorry, you closed on your house already, right?
We're in the process. We're in process. Hopefully,
you're about to close, right? Sorry, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But think about how much house you're able to afford based on your interest rate.
Yeah.
Right. So if the interest rates were back down to 2%, you'd be able to afford more of a house.
Yes.
Or a bigger house, more expensive house.
Tell me about
it.
Right.
So as they continue to raise these rates, it's going to cost people more money to borrow money. So they're going to be like, well, hold on, let me chill. I don't need that car. I don't need that house. I don't need this new remodel in my kitchen. All these things are going to start to slow down because the more you pay to borrow money, the harder it is to recoup. Even us as investors, right? Like we're in the process of burying our property in Chicago. we're gonna wind up paying a lot more now than we would have paid, 6 months ago, had we been able to finish the project on time, right? Because the rates continue to go up. So I think that's the easiest kind of example.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Go ahead, Chris.
Anytime someone takes out a loan, they're printing new money. The more money there is in the system, the less value it has. That's pretty much as simple as I could explain it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and basically it's a reaction to the almost unprecedented amount of money that was printed in the last couple of years. So it's something that has to happen. Either at the end of the day, like there's going to struggle to achieve a soft landing. But I also think that we have to think about the real life impact, which Jesse touched on, right? Whether it's you closing on a house, whether it's any financing that anyone is trying to get out there, in order for inflation to come back down, the liquidity has to dry up a little bit. There has to be less money out there, and we'll have to see if the Fed is serious about it. But honestly, easy for some people to say, but I would say that if it doesn't happen, sooner rather than later, it's only going to become a bigger, thing, a more painful thing when it.
It's definitely something that obviously I'm right there and seeing, and it's crazy because the process of closing has been kind of shifted because of how the rates have been kind of going up and down, and even things that are going on in Russia have affected what's been going on with me. So it's kind of, it makes a whole lot of sense. And hopefully we have a good report on Tuesday and we keep it moving. But we've been talking a lot about cash right now, but let's talk a little bit about some credit.
Get the money, dollar bill, y'all.
All right. You guys know credit rules everything around me. So a couple things, we've been talking about credit card points lately, right? A lot of people have been asking me all excited. Ooh, I want to get this one. I want to get this one. I want to slow people down a little bit. You got to kind of do it in increments. You got to be gradual with it, okay? Each card you get has a purpose. You don't just keep getting cards to rack up all these points. They do have certain amounts you have to hit to get these bonuses. And I mean, unless you're a baller and spending $12K every 3 months, nothing, you could get 3 cards, but that's usually not the case. Also, some of them have annual fees with them. You know what I mean? So you don't want to get 10 cards right away and pay all those annual fees. That's nearly not how it works. So, to start off, the easiest way to do it is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. And then you could go the Chase Sapphire Reserved or the Amex Platinum. And the reason I say those 3 cards is because those 3 cards have access to their American Express and Chase travel portal. And within those portals, you can book Southwest, you can book Hilton, you can book Hyatt. Those 3 cards have the most ability of transferable ability.
Okay.
So it's great to get the Marriott card per se once you've exhausted these 3 cards and the benefits that come with it, right? It's great to get the Hyatt, but start with these 3 because these 3 will give you access to everything else. And then for those that have been in the game for some time, for example, my boy Shady over here with the shades on, he's picked up a lot of credit cards in recent times. He's done a great job using them. Now, question is, hey, I don't really get any benefits from this card now, and it's still charging me a $100, $200 annual fee. You can close a credit card. Okay, sure, you're going to take a little ding to your credit score, but it's not the end of the world. Not everybody could be like this 18-year-old over here with 846 credit score, but in reality, a 750 to an 846 isn't doing much. Like in terms of Rick's, regardless if he had scored between those 2, he was going to get the same rate on the house because the rate is the rate right now. You know what I mean? With the car loan, maybe a 0.25% at most you'll get in terms of having the higher score, but in reality, I don't even think that's going to happen anymore. So I just kind of wanted to put things into perspective for people. It's okay to close cards per se that you're not using. Now, the Hyatt card does have a $95 fee, annual fee with it, but you get 1 free night at a basic Hyatt every year. To me, that's worth it. So you have to analyze each card one by one to see if you're getting the benefits from it, spread it out. And like I said, the Chase Sapphire, Preferred, Reserved, and the Amex Platinum, all 3 of them have their own travel portals that have access to almost anything and everything else travel point related. There's a reason why they have points. You know what I mean? Not just miles. Certain cards give you miles and you're stuck to either that hotel, you're stuck to either that airline. But with points, you have the flexibility to do shopping, take a cruise, use it on a flight, use it on a hotel. So I think that's the most beneficial way of using credit card points. I hope that puts things into perspective for people that have been reaching out and asking about it. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I think you bring up a great point because I consider myself pretty organized and, I follow up on things and I had
very organized.
But I had an L that I want to share
Wow.
to your point. So I forgot where I went not too long ago. I was flying Southwest. So I picked up the Southwest card because I think it's like an $89 annual fee, but you get 60,000 points or miles. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Really, really great deal.
Yeah.
And then guess what? I had to make $2,000 or $3,000 of purchases. I totally forgot about it. I had to do that in the first 90 days.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about it. And I just set it to the side. And you know when I remembered on like Saturday. And guess what? The 3 months had just happened like on Thursday, Friday.
Jeez.
So that was $90. That I
Could have gone to the club and popped bottles.
I know, man. So, and yeah, I was like upset about that, but I think I just bring it back to your point because like I do consider myself pretty organized, but I just totally missed it on that one. And yeah, like that was a one-time benefit. So that's might be a card that I may consider canceling in the future because I don't know if I'm really going to get that kickback. On the flip side, I had a credit win because my sister is going to be taking my nephew to Disneyland for his birthday. And I'm going to be working, but my wife and the baby are going to go. And I'm like, oh, yeah, what does that look like? Yada, yada. She gives me prices. I'm like, damn, I remember when Disneyland was like $40 to get in. It was like $100 to pass. Like, I mean, it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So she was like, hey, like, what's up with the, look at this. And I see it's a Disney card. So the Disney card, you get a $300 statement credit. And I think it's a $50 annual fee. And we're not this crazy, but if you were somebody who does like all the Disney vacation packages and stuff like that, you get like pretty ridiculous points and discounts on all that. But basically, just by signing up for the card and using it, you get $250 that you basically makes your trip free, pays for some dinners, things like that,
It sounds like we should get a BSV.
Chris, your mic is kind of off. Try muting it and then unmuting it real quick.
Sorry.
No worries. But yeah, that's some good stuff right there.
It sounds like we should have a BSV Disney cruise event together.
There you go. But thanks so much for those gems, Chris. As always, if you guys have any questions about credit, go ahead and hit us up on the DMs at IG at the Brown Scam Investors. And we got some information and some more good news. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, my man Chris dancing before the beat drop. I like this.
Oh, I got it here, baby.
There you go. Now you sound good.
Oh, he disappeared on us.
Then Jesse disappeared.
I had the BSV wife.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, the comments are coming in.
Sorry about that, guys. All right, guys. So today we talking about some dollars, man. We talking about salaries, right? So we're talking about what people are making out here in these streets. So, and I'm not going to tell you what our salaries are, but we are going to talk about some different laws that are being passed out here in the Golden State. So Cali just passed a law requiring companies to post the salary range on job listings.
Ooh, there you go.
It's also going to require companies with more than 100 employees to show their median gender and racial pay gaps.
Ooh.
Mind blown. Now, a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we covered Colorado did this, right? Mm-hmm. And they saw some pretty positive results out of this. Now, the kicker here is that it got passed through the legislative branch. However, we still have to get it through Governor Newsom's desk, and he's got to sign it into law. So I'm pretty excited about this, right? Like, I think some of us out there, especially those of a different hue, sometimes tend to undersell ourselves. Like, we'll kind of take what's given to us during the interview process. We weren't necessarily taught how to negotiate salaries all that well, and I'm a victim of it, right? Like, I've let it happen to me young, when I was young and first starting out in my career.
Definitely.
So the fact that now the ranges are posted, well, now you have more of a fighting chance. What do you guys think about that?
I think the interesting thing is going to be what that does for people who are already working in those companies. From experience, anytime that there's some kind of pay increase at work, you already know what happens. There's all this drama that ends up happening. And I'm not trying to make light of it. I honestly think it's something that is going to really have to be dealt with, right? Because here's one of those things where I'm with it. I think we should be transparent with it as much as possible. I love that they're going to force us to do that. I think that's great. But I think on the flip side, sometimes in states like California, where we pass a lot of these very well thought out, actually, I'm not going to say that they're well thought out yet, but they're very well intentioned laws. Those are the kinds of things that you end up not realizing that you're impacting, right? So I just think, it'll be interesting to see how companies take this and, how they're going to train their employees and how they're going to try to get ahead of it, hopefully. Yeah. So I'm curious for that part of it.
It almost seems like a massive incentive for these companies when they do this to not have so much turnover than if that's the
I don't know that's I think because I think it depends on the company, but I think in a lot of companies, it's about bringing in, new talent.
Yeah, you want to bring in new talent.
A lot of times, a lot of companies actually just want to mitigate turnover. They want to just not let it get ahead of them because they know that they're constantly be streaming people into.
Let's be real. There's so many factors that impact variation of salaries, right? For example, someone of color who's been in position, who's been a director of something for 2 years versus a Caucasian person been a director for 10 years. Obviously, there's going to be that difference in salary. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play. One thing I did read about Colorado, though, some of those companies, they have establishments outside of the state. So even though they're hiring for Colorado, they're posting it as a Missouri or Texas job who works in Colorado, and then they don't have to post anything.
Correct.
Wow.
So there are ways around it. So
for sure.
You're going to definitely find the loopholes in all of this.
But I'm just saying, already Colorado trying to be different, drive change, and already they're finding ways to avoid what this is really trying to bring to light.
It's crazy because I work in education, and I'll tell you firsthand, it seems like the kids are brighter at finding ways to getting around the assignments and actually do them. So this is what a lot of companies end up doing. They're more creative at finding ways to cheat the system than to actually just work in it. So it's kind of crazy.
No, absolutely.
Part of this you were going to cover?
Yeah, because what Chris was mentioning about people getting creative. I want to talk about another law that's being passed, or that was actually signed by Governor Newsom on Monday, and it directly impacts fast food workers and their salaries. Now, this is close to home. My very first job, where I actually got paid a legal payment, was at McDonald's. And that was my very first job. I lived around the block from it.
What was the rest of you guys' first jobs?
My first job,
official. I would say official job because
I got a paycheck printed for.
Paycheck.
I was a tutor at Cathedral High School.
Okay, Togra.
I worked for the city, getting paid to scorekeep games, $3 a game.
Okay,
but it was a legit paycheck. I was 12 years old.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, I worked obviously in odd jobs when I was younger, but my first real paycheck was at Big Five. So I was slinging them shoes. Yeah, I was slinging them shoes. I was having to wear a shirt and tie to sell shoes.
I had a quick question for Jesse.
Yeah.
How were the fries you made?
Really good.
Were they crispy? Did they have the right amount of salt?
No.
Super crispy.
What was the timer that you had to have?
I don't remember.
The heat of the oil and the time. I remember I was watching the Founder and they had
I'm sure he was keeping them right.
Don't let me find out your fries were garbage, bro.
My fries were fire. Although I started off as a cashier and then worked a crew trainer and then went to go work at a supermarket. But anyway, we digress.
Okay.
The point is, this week, so Governor Newsom signed a bill to create a fast food council to evaluate the wages of fast food workers. Initial thoughts are that they could potentially raise the minimum wage salary for fast food workers to $22 an hour. That if they work 40 hours a week for 52 weeks, that's a $45,000 job. As somebody who started at McDonald's that was making $4.25 an hour, shit, that's a pretty nice come up.
Bro, that's right? When burgers were 10 cents though.
29 cents.
Now,
yeah.
Now the question I have for you guys is the drawback that comes with this, because if this passes, that these companies are just not going to let that eat into their profits. We, the consumer, will now be paying even more money for this fast food. And I don't know about you guys, but I like paying $1.50 for a spicy McChicken. I'm not gonna pay $6 for a spicy McChicken.
I think there's a lot of dimensions to this.
Yeah, there is. There's a ton.
I think we just that just makes us get on the Rennie tip and stop eating that trash.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that, like, I mean, but there is a lot of dimensions to it, because yes, at the surface level, that's what I would say. I'd say, like, yo, we probably don't need to eat that many chicken sandwiches, right? But let's be real, like, you know, where are these fast food chains located? They're located in a lot of food deserts, right? Where people don't really have that many options to buy things, and obviously passing that price on to them doesn't do them any good. So I think you got to think about it from all those different perspectives. I think it's a loaded question. It's a great question. It might deserve its own episode for us to talk about. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's just
there's a part of me that says yes, part of me that says no. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. It just comes down to, okay, you do that for fast food workers. Sure, they deserve it. But there's a lot of deserving working class that deserves that money.
Yeah.
And then when you do it for them, what about them? What about them? Because the other working class need money to buy, to your point, that food. Because a lot of kids grow up where mom and dad or just one mom working all the time. They only got $5 to get some food. That's what they're gonna go get.
Yeah, and to that point, just to keep adding to that point, Dogra, if you have people working, you know, all of these, you know, labor jobs or less skilled jobs, less jobs that have less education requirements, kind of thing,
unskilled labor.
There you go, even better. But what is that going to do for the prices and the negotiating power for salaries for skilled jobs? Where you do have to, so it starts to bump everything up, which in then turn becomes this whole thing of now more inflation, because people are now making way more money at every single job. So then that just means that prices for things get way more expensive. So there's that side of it. There's the whole side of you know, just
well, I think you bring up a valid point. But I think also, like, I'm somebody, I mean, it's easier for me to say it than to actually do it, I'm sure, but you know, I think that is where you need to start. Like, I think there's just too much, you know, trickling down and worrying about the people up top. Like, I do think that, you know, if anybody's owed that, it's the people who make the least. But that's just my personal opinion.
No, I mean, that's a completely fair thing. I think everybody should be entitled to work a job 40 hours a week throughout the whole year and make a livable wage. Unfortunately, livable wages nowadays they have to be so much higher than what they were. It's just the reality of life. And that's the really unfortunate part. It's not that, you know, unskilled labor doesn't get paid enough. It's that everybody should be entitled to work a job where they can have a livable wage and live. It's not necessarily that they have the money to ball out or do all these different things, but they should have money to live.
Some people just hate on 9 to 5s.
I mean, yeah, there's that. And that's unfortunate. But thank you to everybody that joined us on the radio live. We're still on YouTube, so we're gonna keep this going. But any last thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, like, I'm happy to see people get paid. I'm happy to see people make more money. We just have to, you know, do a little bit more understanding of how it's really going to impact the overall economics of it, because it's not just about, you know, making more money. You know, the reality is we're going to fit the bill for these increases.
Yeah, and I think you also have to, I mean, there's so much politics that go into it, because, like, you know, you want to just come at it from a place of, you know, good intentions and say, you know, maybe if the law was so comprehensive that they would dictate, you know, where these companies can, you know, pull money from and resources from to, you know, counteract this, right? Like, but at the end of the day, like, I think you have to be aware that, you know, the sentiment right now, you know, not only in the U.S., I mean, my home country just, you know, rejected the Constitution because, you know, they have a very extremist left too. And, you know, and there was a lot of, like, great stuff in there, but, like, it was, you know, supposedly a surprise, but, you know, it got shut down. So the reason I bring that up is because, you know, if the government did start requiring companies to do things like that, which I think, you know, at surface value seem like the right thing to do, you know, it might also kind of get bucketed too much into that whole, like, yo, we're just pushing too extreme to the left. And I think we're in a very kind of shaky space right now with politics in general. So it's very, very hard to, like, do it at that level. I love where they're coming from. I think we need to take care of people who don't make that much money, one way or another. But, you know, me personally, though, I do wish that companies could either, I mean, I think they should do this, but I think also, like, providing some kind of route towards whether it's job development, you know, come in and work at McDonald's so that you can skill up or whatever, become a manager, or even help you become successful in whatever role, whatever career it is you want to pursue.
Again, what we talked about earlier, they're going to find a way around it. Let's say this passes. Okay, we got to pay this. Okay, no one's getting full time anymore because these places were trying to offer benefits to people that worked full time.
I mean, Walmart's been doing that forever, you know.
Now I could find people to do this part time because 22 sounds better than 16.50. Okay, so now you're doing it part time. Oh, you know what? Now you're gonna have to work harder. We're just gonna have less staff. It'll be slower for the guest, but now you're gonna do more because we're paying you more. So there's a lot to me that goes behind it. Like on the surface level, it sounds great.
I think you meant customer.
Yeah,
you meant customer.
Customer. On the surface level, it sounds great, but to me, it's not holding them accountable to what we're trying to accomplish, and that's doing what's right for the laborer.
Yeah, man, that sounds like some crazy old loopholes because it's real, man. Like when you have to pay people more, you make them do more. You know,
You've seen it.
That's real, yeah. Now, that was some really great information, and thank you guys. I don't know if you guys got anything for bars. I don't have anything for bars this week, but
I did not bring anything. No.
You didn't bring anything for bar? No, I'm just kidding.
Nah. So we are gonna close it up for today. Thank you so much for everybody that joined us. This was a great episode, Jesse. I'm glad that your beard's gonna grow back by next week. Dogra, I hope you donate
it. I mean, nah, just right out, man. From there to the sink.
There you go.
In the ocean.
Poor sink.
Your boy could have used some of that. You know what I mean? Hey, millions of beard growers everywhere. Like that dude can actually grow a beard, and he chose not to. What the fuck?
Yeah. So.
Give me 3 weeks. It'll be nice and filled in and looking popping. So I got you guys. It's coming back. It's coming back.
From all of us beards to all you fresh faces. Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
I did. That's why I shaved.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We can't wait to see you guys next week. Make sure you stay tuned in to TGN Latinx and the Good News Radio Network. And make sure you always check us out on Instagram at the Brown Skin Investors. And we will see you next week, everybody.
Peace. Nice seeing you, fellas. Peace.